Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. This is Sean Hydren with Verve Cycling, and today we are going to cover how to set up your navi2coach computer. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you get your computer is actually go to the OScience website so that you can download the TrainingLab software. The TrainingLab software is included free with every navi2coach computer, and I have found that actually using the TrainingLab software is the quickest and easiest way to set up your computer. You can set up the screens and input all of the information just using the head unit, but once you download this software and you plug in the flight computer into your PC laptop, you can actually set up the screens, and I think it goes a little bit faster, and it's just a more simplified way to get you up and running so that you can see the data that you want to see when you're out riding on your bike. So in order to get the software, go to the OScience website, which I've brought up here on my screen. Click on Software, then click on Training Software, and you'll see the download button in the lower right-hand corner here. Go ahead and download it. Follow the installation programs just like any other program you would. And I've already gone through that. It really goes by quickly, but just to make this video go by a little bit faster, I've gone ahead and installed the software on my laptop. Now, at this point, you're going to want to use the USB cord that's also included and plug in your navi2coach computer into your laptop. When you open up the software for the first time, you might see a setup wizard. Feel free to go ahead and use that, or you can follow along with me and set it up that way as well. Usually the first window that opens is select user, but for now we're going to close out of that because I want to show you guys how to set up your preferences, because I know we have an international customer base, and depending on where you are, you may want to set up your computer using metric or imperial field. So for me, I'm in the US, I use imperial. I like Fahrenheit and pounds, but you can choose between kilograms, pounds, etc. So go ahead and go to Preferences, which is under Settings, and then Preferences, and set up the display units the way you'd like to see them. The next thing is user configuration. So this is where you put in your personal information. You'll probably have to enter your name the first time and fill in all of the relevant information. So you can put in your birth date here. Now everyone in the world will know how old I am, which is awesome. Okay, and I'm female, of course. You can put in your inches here. Let's see, I am 67. Oh, and everyone's going to know how much I weigh, too. Resting heart rate. This will be what your heart rate is when you wake up in the morning, even before you stand up. So at complete rest, if you can, or if you're able to sit down for several minutes and see what your pulse comes down to. It might be a little bit higher than a true resting heart rate, but it'll give you a good idea. And then if you know your maximum heart rate, training hours per day, go ahead and fill that in. And if you'd like to, you can fill in heart rate zones and stuff. We're just putting in the basics to get everybody up and running now. So let's see here. Got that. Did okay. User configuration. Looks like everything's there. You can upload an image if you'd like. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is set up our device, which is what we wanted to do in the first place, right? So you can go to Home. You can either click on Device here in the main menu, or from Home, you can also see Set up Device. So either one, whatever's easiest for you. We want to set up our navi2coach. So I'm going to click on that. Now here again, we have our user data. It should have transferred over. You may get a little window that pops up that says new firmware available. We are going to do another demonstration video on how to install the firmware on your navi2coach as well as your info crank. So look for that next. But for now, we're going to go ahead and skip that. We can update on the next round. You can see my person, female, everything transferred over. Resting heart rate, I'm just going to bring that back down. What did I say? I think it was 48. There we go. Now, if you click on system, the next thing is you're going to pick some options. I want mine in English, sound level, sample rate. I always recommend going with 1 second. It'll just give you the most data. And for me, I like to get the most and the most accurate that I can. So with that, I choose 1 second. Now, do I want the zeros? Generally speaking, this is a personal preference. I like my zeros counted because I feel like then I get a truly accurate measure of what I did on the training. But again, that's up to you. This is setting up the lighting on your screen, and again, personal preference. You may need to play with this a little bit. I'm just going to leave these at default levels right here. You're going to select your units, and I like mine in feet, and I would like Fahrenheit, and I like a 12-hour clock. Daylight savings time, you can actually put in your time zone here as well. Active profile, you can have multiple profiles, so you can actually share this unit with other people. Right now, I'm just going to keep it profile 1. And then I'm going to go up here and click save. A little window will pop up. We'll click save here. Yes, I want to replace it because these are the new updated settings. And then I'll click transfer settings so that it actually gets transferred through the USB cord into the device. At this point, I don't want to create a sport profile. Sport profiles are going to be different bikes. So we're going to set those up shortly here. That'll be the next one. So you've got your users, and then you've got sport profiles, which again will be your different bikes. Now, if I click on display, this is the cool part. This is where I can actually set up my screens for my navi2coach computer when I'm on the bike. I feel like it's much easier to actually do it on the computer than just to have, to click buttons on the head unit. So if you have the option, I would definitely set it up using your PC. So the first thing that comes up is page 1. Now, a lot of people have asked us, what should we be looking at? What do I want to see when I'm riding? So I'm going to set this navi2coach up with the screens that I personally like to use. And again, I think the more familiar you get with training with power and the unit, you're going to play around, and I also change my screens pretty frequently depending on what I want to look at, depending on what my workouts are. So for now, my page 1 is always kind of just general information. You can see here that there's an option to split the field, and what that does is it splits the field into 2. So you can have 1 or 2 metrics being displayed in the same line. For me, I like to split all the fields because being the data geek that I am, I want to get the most information that I can. I like to see everything. So if I just click on, if you saw there, all I'm going to do is come over here and click on the field that I want to change. And here I will select the metric that I want to see. And I am just looking for time. And I think that's actually under miscellaneous. There it is, time. I click OK. And there, the screen changed to time. That's just time of day, by the way. It is displayed on the navi2coach computer very smallly at the top of the screen. I just like to see it a little bit bigger. And then the next thing is, again, we'll go to miscellaneous. And I like to see the stopwatch because that gives me an idea of how long I've been out compared to what time of day it is. Of course, the next thing, I do like to see power. So I'm going to click on it, and I just like to see the current watts that I'm putting out. You can either double click on the item or click it once and then click OK. It's up to you. Then across from power, I like to see average power. So comparing what I'm currently putting out to the average power output for the entire ride up to this point. So there we go, moving right along. Next thing I like to look at is my cadence. And again, I'm going to compare cadence to my average cadence. So what am I doing now compared to what I've been doing for the entire ride? And the last option I like to look at is heart rate on this first screen. Remember, keep in mind we're just talking about the first screen, and we've got 6 screens or pages that we can have available. And believe it or not, I use them all because it's just so much fun to have all this information handy. There we go. So I've got my first page. Again, this for me is general information. Time of day, how long I've been out, power, cadence, and heart rate. Current readings to comparing to what I've been doing all ride. Now on page 2, this is what I consider my intervals page. So if I have a specific workout to do, this is where I'll go to complete all of my intervals. And again, we're going to double click here, miscellaneous. Now I like to see lap time because this will tell me how long, if I have to do a 5-minute interval, it'll be lap time. Stopwatch. So now I'm comparing my lap time and also comparing to, okay, I'm doing this interval at what point in the ride? An hour into the ride, 20 minutes into the ride? This is just kind of telling me where I'm at overall. Now, for the next set of information, generally, all of my intervals are based on power output. So this is an important one here. I want to look at lap watt average. I'm also a coach, and this is a big one that I tell all of my athletes, that you're definitely going to want to have the lap watt average, because what that does is that metric right there allows you to completely dial in your power output instead of watching it. If I just put it on lap watts, if I just put it on watts, it would just be jumping all around and really hard to hold steady. However, once I hit that interval button, the lap watt average, I can set it at 250 watts, and it's going to hold a lot steadier than as if I just had it on a watt readout. So anytime you're doing intervals, remember to use lap watt average. Same thing for cadence. A lot of times I will have cadence goals for my intervals. So I want to have my cadence lap average as well, not what I'm looking at the whole ride or not what I'm doing right then. When you use the lap average, it just creates a much more steady metric that you can really dial in and nail your target wattage or cadence. Same now, if I'm doing multiple intervals of the same time, I like to see what I did the last time compared to what I'm doing right now, because that'll give me an idea, am I decaying in power? Is my power output dropping? Am I holding steady? Am I putting out more than I did last time? So I like to be able to compare my last interval to the interval that I'm doing now. And that's last lap watt average. Double click on that. Whoops, I think it jumped on me there. Last lap watt average, there we go. And same thing, I like to see what I did for my cadence. It's a little hard to see there, getting a little tight for my computer screen. And the last thing, a couple of things I like to look at is I do just like to see my heart rate as a continuous metric. It's not something that I generally try to target, although there are times when I'll have that and I might put, heart rate lap average in. But for now, we'll just look at that. And then just kind of for fun while I'm doing my intervals, I do like to see how fast am I going. And there you have it. There's page 2. Now, on page 3, this is where I like to kind of look at the things that are specific and unique to InfoCrank. So that would be the pedal balance, the torque efficiency, and pedal smoothness. Now, torque efficiency and pedal smoothness are 2 brand new metrics that you will need to complete the firmware updates to see. And again, we'll show that on the next video. But for now, that's what I have on my page 3. So if I look here, and if I click on power, there you see pedal balance average, and lap pedal balance average. Oops. So pedal balance is what I'm doing right then. Now, this is one that you're not going to want to split the field on. There we go. Because it's going to give you 2 numbers anyways, so you're going to see left and right. Same thing actually for this one. Now I want to see my pedal balance average. So what am I putting out right now compared to, how's my average been for the entire ride? Put that in. And again, this is something, you know, for me, I'm looking at it during my ride. It's also a metric that I think is really important to dive in deeper on once you've completed the ride and are really kind of analyzing what's been going on. So next field, let's see, we're going back to power. And let's see, under miscellaneous, that. Now, for the next 2, the torque effectiveness and the pedal smoothness, I don't believe that the TrainingLab software has been updated, so that is something that you're going to want to set up using your head unit. And once when we do the video to show how to do the firmware update, I'll show you how to do that on your head unit as well. So for now, page 3, pedal balance average, and you know, those are the ones that you're going to want to put in for now. We'll show you how to fill in the next 2 on the next video, but you'll need to update the firmware in order to do that. Moving on to page 4. Now this is what I consider my fun page. This is all the stuff that, you know, doesn't necessarily pertain to my training all the time, but they're the metrics that I just really like to look at. You know, I know most of us are on a pretty tight schedule with our training. We don't have the luxury of just going out and riding for hours and hours. And so I always like to have time. I have time on multiple screens. And the next thing I like to look at is altitude. I live at just under 9,000 feet. So we do a lot of climbing around here. I always like to see, hey, what elevation are we at? The next thing I like is distance. I'm going to plug that in. And again, I'm just double clicking on these, distance and then average speed. So let's see, there's average. And if you're like me, you always like to see what's the maximum power that you've hit for the ride. So I picked that one. Next one, right up there with max power is max speed. A little competitive, right? And for altitude, I like to look at, you know, how much we've gone up, sometimes how much we've gone down. So let's see, altitude, how much have we gained? And the last thing is the grade. You know, when you're climbing, what percentage of a grade are you on? There you go. And same thing, the next page 5 and page 6, what are the metrics that you like to look at? You know, pick those. For me, it's just kind of anything else that I haven't seen yet. But the biggies are, again, page 1, the general information. Page 2 is my interval page. Again, remember that lap, watt, average, lap, cadence, average is a big one. And then page 3, pedal balance, torque efficiency, pedal smoothness. Page 4, the fun stuff. What's missing? What are the things that I like to see? You know, how much power have I put out? What's the max power? How fast have I gone? And there you go. So I'm going to go over here, click on save, make sure that everything's set up. Yes, I want to replace it. And now I'm going to transfer the settings over to the actual device. Do I want to create a new sport profile? If I wanted to, this is if I click yes, no, there we go. Here are the last thing are profiles. This is where you're going to want to put in your bike information. For me, I have a Focus road bike, and here I could put in information, but basically, you're going to want to put in any bikes that you might be using with your navi2coach. Transfer the settings, so now my Focus will show up. Nope, I'm not going to create any other ones here. And there you have it. You are now ready to ride with your navi2coach. You can just close the window and unplug your computer and have a great ride. Thanks for joining us today.